Okay, let's talk about the good college professor. Okay, so let me put this out there first. I think that there are two things a college professor could be doing, or a college could be doing with the students. Um, One of those things is kind of communicating and teaching what I'm going to call the tradition, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a second, but kind of communicating and teaching the tradition to the students. And then the other way is kind of is more about teaching the students how to think and perceive for themselves. So what I mean by the tradition there is, let's say you're reading a book like Plato's Republic. So the students are asked to read the book, and then they come in, and they're going to have to write a paper on it, and they're going to have tests on it, or whatever they're going to do. But then you come into class, and the teacher, maybe completely or primarily or mostly, is kind of explaining the Republic, like teaching what the Republic's about and teaching what people have said about the Republic. That to me is what I kind of call teaching the tradition. And there's a sense in which the Republic, having been written 2,300 plus years ago, 2,400 years ago, has gone through history from then until now. It's gone through history, and all of these different people have interacted with it. People have written, people have written essays about it. People have written books about it. People have given talks on it. People have written poems about it. People have made paintings about it, statues, whatever. All of this stuff. All of that makes up this tradition of how the Republic has been received and how the Republic has been understood. And the professor is a member of that tradition. The professor himself or herself has been one of those people that has received and understood the Republic in a certain way. Some professors see it as their primary job to make sure that is communicated to the students. And there is a proper place and a role for that. That at some point, if you are going to be a Plato scholar and you're going to have to engage with Plato, you have to know what everybody else has thought about it and what everybody else has said about it, and you have to interact with that in your research and in your studies and in your scholarship. So that's an appropriate and an important way that a professor plays a role there. A way a professor can teach. The other way is to engage with the students conversationally or seminar style or dialectically or whatever. And in that approach, the professor is trying to help the students learn to think for themselves, learn how to think and how to see for themselves what the Republic says, how they themselves become one of the people that's receiving and interacting with and engaging with the Republic. The difficulty here in this approach, this kind of dialectic approach, is that if we're not aware of the tradition, what the tradition about it says, we may come up with very, very bizarre ways of interpreting and understanding a book like the Republic, but any book really. Probably the Bible might be the best example of this, actually, if I can say it that way, right? Like there is a tradition that is made up of people and church denominations and groups and people that and theologians that have received the scriptures and engaged with it and understood it. That kind of makes up this kind of the common beliefs about the scriptures that we kind of need to know. But there's also people out there that have ignored all of that and kind of gone into scriptures and decided that they're going to interpret it for themselves. And sometimes they land on the same page and they see the same things, and sometimes they come up with very, very bizarre and strange doctrines and beliefs, right? So this tradition side of it is helpful because it kind of sets boundaries for us to help us to know, like, when we're being too crazy with what we're seeing, what we're thinking about the text. But there's also an important part of like letting us learn how to see it for ourselves, giving us the opportunity to engage with it ourselves. So basically there's two kinds of professor, or well, there's two kinds of professors in the sense that a professor typically does more of this or more of this. Not that professors do only this or only this, but they tend to do more of this or more of this. And both of those things are important. Both of these things are of value. So if I can kind of like combine them for a second and just think about it more generally, one of the things that the professor's job is, one of the things the professor's job is, doesn't sound right. That sentence sounds very weird to me. One of the responsibilities that the professor has is to make sure that they can guide us within these boundaries of like preventing us from being crazy, going crazy in the way we approach the text, in the way we approach the story, and interpret it really, really bizarrely. And then, but then to the extent that they participated in this way, this dialectical way or seminar way, allowing us to practice seeing what we see for ourselves in the in our reading of it. Sorry, I'm going to spotlight this. So if make sure the recording has my video there. Which I should have done at the beginning. My apologies. But so they're trying to, they're part of their job then, whichever one they're doing, part of their job is to make sure those boundaries are there, those guidelines are there. And then the more they do the dialectical approach, the more they have to let us kind of move around within those boundaries, but then kind of ask us questions and kind of guide us away from those, from being too crazy. And if we refuse, like if we keep pushing that boundary and saying stuff that's really, really kind of crazy, then training us and guiding us, kind of corralling us by forcing us back to the text, forcing us back to the tradition, the tradition's understanding, and showing us why it has to be the way we're seeing it, like making me justify it. I can't just declare, like I'll use this as an example because it's one that comes up for me all the time. I love the Iliad. The Iliad it's actually my second favorite of the epics. Odyssey is my favorite, but my favorite character of all the epics is Achilles. I love Achilles. And one of the things that I always encounter is the argument that Achilles is a big crybaby, that he's just taking his ball and he's going home. He's just sitting on the beach, crying to his mommy and asking for her to come and save him. As you can imagine, or perhaps you can imagine, as somebody who loves Achilles the way I do, I hate that interpretation of Achilles. It drives me crazy, right? So I want to like put boundaries up and say like, you got to give me more than just he feels like a baby to you. You think he's a baby. Like you need to show me why, and you need to show me how that makes sense within the context of the Iliad. Like, does anybody else think he's a baby? And if not, then why not? And if so, then why? So my job is to like kind of think about those boundaries, and guide the students within keep them within the boundaries, but drive them back to the text to do it, or to the tradition. Has anybody ever historically until now believed that Achilles was a baby? If so, then let's talk about that and why they think that and what their evidence is for it and stuff. So there's that kind of guiding that's going on. So some professors lead more toward the guiding and the communication of the tradition. Some professors lean more towards letting you play around inside of that fenced area, as it were, and just kind of keeping the fence up. The other way that the good professor is guiding us is that the good professor is helping us to choose what the right books are to read, and even what order they ought to be read in. Because one of the difficulties that can happen is if you just try to go study for yourself. Well, first of all, let me say this. If you're trying to go study something for yourself, especially something as important as truth, goodness, beauty, morals, ethics, aesthetics, these big ideas, if you're trying to go study those things for yourself, YouTube can be a good place for that. But it can also be a very dangerous place. And the algorithms for social media are designed to give you whatever will make you click more. So so those algorithms could pull you into crazier and crazier views and give you more and more input on crazier and crazier views. You kind of got to be careful with that. But the good professor helps guide you through that. The good professor helps you to see, like, hey, look, this question is being raised here. This question is being engaged with here as if it were never answered, but there was an answer here. And this guy thinks that it wasn't answered, or this guy's offering objections that have already been answered back here, stuff like that. And so even knowing like what books to read and in what order to read them is a way in which the good college professor has helped kind of helping to guide you through your studies. That way you're not being asked to read every single book out there, which is basically impossible. And then try to have to piece the timeline and the influences and the questions and answers all together on your own. Like they can kind of do that for you, and yet do it in a way that kind of sets those boundaries for you, but could, if they lean more towards the dialectical approach or the seminar approach, do it in a way that still allows you to kind of run around inside of the fence. If I can use that as my analogy there. So the good professor is doing one of those two things. The question that you kind of have to come up with as a student then is, what are your goals and which of those do you need? To some extent, you may need to know the tradition itself really, really well so that you can go on and engage with it. But to the other extent, and on the other hand, we all need to learn how to think and engage with an artifact directly ourselves, right? So both of those things can be important. So figuring out which of those you need. But I think what I mean here by need is what you need, perhaps, I think, for your long-term goals. I don't mean this need from the perspective of, I prefer hearing lectures or I prefer engaging in conversations. Sometimes we prefer something because it's easier for us, not because it's better for us. And so you don't want to make the choice just based on a kind of like, I want to do what's easier for me, but you want to do what's better for you. So if you need to learn how to engage an artifact, like having the self-awareness to know I need to learn how to engage with an artifact myself, and then finding the professors that will help you to do that is good. But if you're the type of person that's like, no, I think for myself all the time and it gets me in trouble, and actually I'm really bad at fitting within boundaries, well, then you might need this guy over here, right? You might need this guy to help establish boundaries for you and teach you how to stay within those boundaries or keep you within those boundaries. So ultimately, what I want to say about what makes a good college professor is, a good college professor is somebody that ultimately I think that's going to help you think and help you think within the fence so you don't go crazy. And then there's a mix of how much they do the one versus the other. Do they do this one a lot more or this one a lot more? And that's where you kind of have to decide between the two. But you want somebody that's going to help guide you, but also help you kind of let you engage with it yourself and teach you to engage with it yourself. So that's what I wanted to talk to you guys today about, what makes a good college professor. There's of course 1,000 more things that can be said about what makes a good college professor. Somebody who's patient and understanding and a good listener and understands clearly the thing he's teaching and can explain it well, or walk you through it well. There's all kinds of things. Somebody who's disciplined. Did I say that one already? There's all kinds of qualities and characteristics. But for my purposes, I wanted to talk about the professor as a guide and the professor as a dialectical partner, and the kind of finding a harmonious relationship between how much they do the one and how much they do the other with you guys today. So on that note, I am going to stop and I am going to hand the microphone over to the team from Hildegard.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all again for being here with us today. And thank you to Dr. Bianco and the CiRCE Institute for hosting us and for providing such a great opportunity for us to think deeply about what the college experience should be. My name is Christy Matthews, and I serve as the Dean of Enrollment and Student Services here at Hildegard College. And I'm joined today by our president and founder, Dr. Matthew Smith, by Dr. Keith Bueller, one of our faculty members in liberal and quadrivial arts, and most importantly, by Nicole Parker, one of our amazing inaugural students. Hildegard College is a new college. As Dr. Bianco mentioned at the beginning, we just opened in September 2023, and we are a mentorship-driven, Christ-centered college that's based in beautiful Costa Mesa, California, and we offer a unique and rigorous single degree in the classical liberal arts and entrepreneurship. And as we share with you today, we encourage dialogue. As Dr. Bianco was talking about the dialectic, that's something that we value strongly at Hildegard. And we encourage you, feel free to raise your hands at any point. I think you have that ability here in the Zoom, or chat. Put your questions in the chat and we will circle back to those at the end. And then also, if you like what you're hearing, we encourage you to sign up for more information. I put the link in the chat here. You can just click on that, enter your information, and we will reach out to you after the session today. So with that, I will turn it over to President Smith.
Thanks, Christy, and thank you to CiRCE and everybody who's here with us. I want to just reinforce what Christy said. Put questions in the chat. We're going to leave some time for that at the end, and you could do it throughout the presentation if you want. We'll ignore it for now, but then we'll read them at the end and address your questions. So what I want to do is talk to you a bit about why we founded Hildegard College. We're brand new, probably America's newest Christian college, Christian liberal arts college, but we're not like any other really. And so I want to talk to you about why we founded this college and did it the way that we're building it. So as we see it, and as we have seen it, young people who are looking at the college decision face a pretty impossible choice today. And I would summarize that choice is one between going to college to get tools for thinking well, or going to college for an experience, a real world experience, an entryway to a job. And I call this an impossible decision because it is not how higher education, as we call it today, or college, university, seminary education, as it's been called in the past, it's not how it was designed. It was designed to be transformative for people. And the hypothesis here is that when you separate thinking from doing in college, you commit an enormously consequential error that prevents people from having a truly transformative experience in their education. So what do I mean by these tools? What kinds of tools of thought am I thinking about? At base level, you can imagine all of the colleges that you might get letters from, or you see in an advertisement on Instagram or wherever, that provide technical knowledge. And this could be at a university that provides professional majors, technical knowledge about how to do something. Now, I'm calling that tools for thought, not doing, because what you're getting is the textbook-driven knowledge about how to perform something later on. You could also think about the trend toward specialization in higher education, and the way that universities are designed these days to take freshmen, or ideally even juniors as they transfer in, and as quickly as possible shuffle them into their majors, specializing early, kind of a way of a form of giving you a tool for thinking, but you're still not really doing. And then lastly, and you might look at this and think, okay, well, this one's not like the others. Why is he putting liberal arts in this list? Because it is a way, it is a tool of thought. Think of Dorothy Sayers and the Lost Tools for Learning. The liberal arts, the study of the traditional seven liberal arts, but also of what we think of today as liberal arts and humanities and sciences approached as the arts of freedom. These are tools for thinking well. And I think it's a good impulse, right? If you're faced with this decision between going to college for tools of thought or going to college in order to do things and engage with society, probably if that's your choice, going to this kind of college is a better bet for you. But graduates of liberal arts colleges, even really, really amazing ones, tend to struggle with figuring out what's happening next. And even more, they experience a kind of jarring shift from the bubble in which they lived and learned at college and then life after college. We call this, industry folks call this the failure to launch into what's next. So this is one side of the choice that we face, young people face today. Do you go to college to get tools for learning? The other kind of tool that you might get is experience. You go to college for an experience. You might think something that's fresh or something that feels relevant, that's innovative, that's action-driven. This is also good, I want to argue. I'm not denigrating this, but the way that we go about this tends to be something like if you hear people say, well, I'm choosing this college because I want to get this particular kind of job. I want to become a nurse, or I want to become a chemical engineer, or I want to become a psychologist, or whatever it might be. Promises that colleges cannot really deliver on if they're not bridging that gap and if they're not giving you a foundation. But nonetheless, I'm going to college for this kind of job, or maybe best case scenario, I skip gen ed, or I transfer in units, or maybe I even get my associate's degree, quote unquote, out of the way first, all of that liberal education stuff. And I transfer in as a junior and I try to get straight into the action. And then I think what's happening more and more, and we heard this alluded to earlier, is some people just choosing not to go to college. Why go to college? I could study welding, or I can study electrical engineering as a craft or a trade. I could take over my parents' company or whatever it might be. Why even go to college? Is it really even worth it? I will tell you, I believe that is a good option for a lot of people. Just don't go, in my opinion, especially if it means avoiding that $80,000 of debt. So one or the other of these options might work for some people thinking or doing, but it doesn't work for a certain kind of person we might describe this person as humble and hungry, smart, ambitious. It doesn't work for this person because this person isn't satisfied with merely consuming culture, but wants to create and change culture. And so by separating learning from doing, I think what we see in American higher education is a problem similar to that C.S. Lewis describes when he says, we're now in a situation where we laugh at honor and are shocked to find traitors in our midst. We laugh at honor, but then we're shocked to find traitors. In a sort of ghastly simplicity, we remove the organ and demand the function. We're removing the organ, but demanding the function. We make men without chests and expect of them virtue and enterprise. So Hildegard College is founded for students who want to change culture. They want to engage. They don't want to consume it. They want to make things that are new. They want to help the world and further the kingdom of God by shaping culture in a redemptive way. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what that means. Dr. Bueller will talk about what that means in the classroom. And Nicole will kind of give a student experience, testimony of a student experience at the college. So what happens when you combine the deep, disciplined study of the liberal arts upon which Hildegard College is founded with an action-driven, creatively and energetic education in entrepreneurship is that you get formation, or what we call transformation. We need to understand not just ourselves, but how the world works. I believe that's a biblical principle. I also think it's a classical principle, to use that term. You need to understand yourself. You need to understand how the world works. And when you do that, you can actually make a change. You can't make a change. You can't affect the world for the better if you do not have the foundation that you need, the foundation to make you free, to give you volitional freedom as a free acting, rational being, but also free in Christ. Likewise, you might have that liberal arts foundation. You might even have it already, you think. But unless you're engaging culture and guided into how to do that, and given the tools for understanding what we call economics, which is not the study of money, but the study of human behavior and culture, you're not going to be able to make that kind of impact. So what kind of a college is Hildegard College? What exactly is it? What category does it fit into? Well, on the one hand, we could be described as a small Christian liberal arts college based in the great books tradition and committed to student transformation. That would be an accurate statement. And I would say that, however, we love this classical tradition, as we heard about earlier, we love this classical tradition so much, though, that we pull it into the realm of leadership and entrepreneurship, into the realm of creation. The one thing I often say that ancient philosophers and modern learning scientists actually agree about, maybe the only thing, is that creation is the highest form of learning. If the lowest form of learning is I tell you what I think you believe, and you rehearse back to me what I told you I think you need to believe, that's the lowest form, regurgitation and rehearsal. The highest form is taking what you've learned and making something new with it. You have to truly understand it. It has to be in you in a way that Plato might describe as coming from you or recollecting it. So we're a small Christian liberal arts college on the one hand. On the other hand, what kind of school are we? We're an innovative, action-based training in leadership and redemptive entrepreneurship where students learn by doing. With that said, we believe in the power of entrepreneurial change, and we love engagement with society and organizations so much that we refuse to teach business the way that business is typically taught. In other words, we think that business and institutions are so important that we don't teach business the way that you would learn about it at a business school where you're taking a class in corporate finance and a class in accounting and a class in marketing. Instead, we're basing an entrepreneurial education in this history of ideas and in redemptive leadership. Hildegard College, kind of at a glance, we offer one single degree. All students take the same classes and undergo the same journey. We design it to be so toward a Bachelor of Arts in Liberal Arts and Entrepreneurship, the first of its kind in the country, a Bachelor of Arts in Liberal Arts and Entrepreneurship. The foundation of this education is the liberal arts. We study great books in economics, politics, literature, philosophy, the arts, mathematics, the natural sciences, logic, history. We study the quadrivial arts. If great books, and the study of this is this sort of shows you what's true about the world and the order of the world, the quadrivial arts, I'm referring to the quadrivium in here, particularly mathematics, geometry, natural science, and then ultimately, so says Thomas Aquinas, the study of metaphysics, moral philosophy, and theology, the queen of the sciences. This progression from mathematical reasoning to observation and description of nature, to understanding metaphysical things, those things that can only properly be known with the intellect, that progression orders the way that you think, right? If we get the tools for learning in the trivium, in these quadrivial arts, our minds themselves are shaped and ordered towards nature and creation and ultimately towards God in a certain way. So we teach the liberal arts through great books. We don't read any textbooks. We read original sources. We're sitting around a common table. We all have the book open together, including for natural sciences and mathematics. We're not pulling out a textbook in calculus or something like that. We're reading Leibniz and Newton and the people who invented calculus and trying to ask the question, what is the problem that calculus was invented to solve according to its creators? It's a cohort model, as I said. Students are taking the same classes. And as they're building this foundation in the liberal arts, they're also being trained in entrepreneurial thought, distinct from business, but also distinct from learning how to found something, rather learning by doing or learning by building. So our entrepreneurial thought curriculum consists in spiritual and professional formation. We insist that these two things are together. And as Nicole can attest to, we don't punt spiritual formation into a chapel program or into extracurricular groups students might be a part of. Students are required every semester on a weekly basis to come into their formation group to identify challenges together, and then through the methodology, the formation method that we used, to find solutions and explore answers and track and hold one another accountable. Secondly, in the curriculum and entrepreneurial thought, students, they're given something of a culture and economic core. What we think of as economics, again, not the study of money, the study of human behavior within conditions of scarcity, which is itself a driver for culture. So students this semester have been, and last semester have been studying culture, different views of it. What are the myths, the false myths that our society teaches us about how the world works, and how do we see those through a redemptive lens? And then lastly, and importantly, students also get project and work-based learning. So you're actually doing things, you're making this thing, you're doing this initiative for this existing organization. We call them our civic partners. And in that, learning the nuts and bolts of what it means to actually do work, whether that's founding your own thing or solving a problem for an existing organization. Finally, the capstone of our 4-year program is what's called the Polymath Project. If you don't know the word polymath, our namesake, Hildegard von Bingen, is a polymath. A polymath is someone who's not simply a specialist in one thing, but is proficient at many things and is all the more impactful for that reason. It's sort of an old-fashioned word for what today is called an entrepreneur. And in the Polymath Project, students are trained to, and then finally themselves, launch something on their own or with fellow students, either building an organization or company from scratch, or creating some kind of product or program or service for an existing organization, all the while through formation, considering how do I do this in a way that is redemptive, that is, that restores the world to God's design for it, and that elevates things from the base to the beautiful. Here's a kind of visual aid for the way that our program is constructed. Students are in classes in the liberal arts and the great books, in the quadrivial arts, and formation and entrepreneurship. Those are the 4 kinds of classes you have. And we're meeting weekly, in fact, even daily, to discuss great books around a common table. That is probably the quintessential activity of, well, Hildegardians, as we affectionately call them, our students, where we seek to know ourselves better. Through the culture and economic core, students understand better how the world works. Through industry-based and project-based entrepreneurial training, they learn by doing. And then finally, in the Polymath Project, they're practicing creating culture, a kind of a launch pad into what's next. An important component to how we can teach this way, how we can be a kind of culturally immersive and yet classical liberal arts college, is that our faculty consists largely of practitioners. So this is just a sampling of some of our faculty who are not only faculty at Hildegard College and come and teach students, but also are builders and doers in their own right. On the top left, you have Dr. Veronica Gutierrez, who is the founder and director of the nation's first Spanish language Great Books program. So you can look it up at Angelicum Academy, based here in Los Angeles, but it's an online Spanish language Great Books program, especially for homeschool students. Top middle, Father Hayden Butler, Associate Rector of St. Matthew's Church in Newport, which is one of our church partners. We have about 7 church partners local to us where we encourage our students to worship if they attend Hildegard College. Top right, you have Jeff Tanner, who's our chair of entrepreneurship, the founder of multiple organizations, including our campus space, Fieldwork, which is a shared collective workspace Perhaps Nicole is sitting in it right now. Perhaps she can say more about it. Bottom left, Professor Christoph Meyer is a brand strategist. He is also a business owner of a landscape restoration company. And then obviously, as indicated by his picture there, he's a commander in the 10th, not obvious what he's the commander of. He's in the military. He's the commander of the 10th Infantry Division of the National Guard based out of Colorado. Bottom middle is Professor Timothy Buchanan, affectionately known as Chef Buchanan, because as the kids say, he cooks. In addition to being a philosopher and a professor of logic and great books at our college, Professor Buchanan also is a guitar maker. He's a luthier and works with arguably the country's premier custom acoustic guitar company, Kevin Ryan Guitars. And then finally on the bottom right, and I will describe him by way of introducing him, Dr. Keith Buehler, faculty of great books and quadrivial arts at Hildegard College, also real estate investor, and where he is right now, founder of maybe the only Christian Orthodox classical K through 12 in California. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong about that, Dr. Buehler. St. Andrew's Academy in Riverside, California. And I'm going to turn it over. This is just to show you that our faculty are doers. We're people that are engaged in society in certain ways, not just professional teachers, but people whose aspiration and involvement with Hildegard is such as we want to guide students into what's next. I'm going to ask Dr. Buehler to give you a little insight as one of our faculty. I think you just taught last night, most recently. What were you teaching?
We were on the Gospel of John last night.
Discussing the Gospel of John. In Great Book Seminar, we read scriptures and theological texts, of course, in there as well. And I'm going to ask Dr. Buehler if you could sort of talk us through what the experience of a faculty member is like, why we teach the way we do, how do we teach exactly, whatever you want to say.
Thank you, Dr. Smith, and thank you, Matthew Bianco. I love CiRCE. I'm really glad to be on with you guys. I'm a big CiRCE nerd, podcasts. I just talked to Andrew the other day about just crazy ideas that he has, and he's a starter as well. So I feel like Hildegard, Dr. Smith didn't start it for me, but I feel like he did. I feel like he created this college, this combination of like the two halves of my brain of creating and business and thinking about culture and thinking about improving the literal physical landscape of neighborhoods and houses, and then improving our souls, right? Actually transforming inside, becoming wiser, becoming better. Those two focuses in one college is really unique and really cool. My day job is that I'm a headmaster of a classical Christian K through 12. There's one in California up in San Francisco. But we're the first one down here in SoCal, and we're in our third year. So I'm passionate about starting up projects and getting things going and doing things better than, you look around and you just kind of go, why is everyone doing school sort of the same way when we know it doesn't work? Let's do it better. So my role at Hildegard is on the sort of the founding faculty. But I run a school and I teach here, and then I have a small sort of real estate business on the side. So love talking to the students about that and encouraging them to, dream about professional development and all these things. I just want to give you sort of like a quick reflection about kind of jumping off of what Dr. Bianco was talking about. That answers the why we teach the way we teach. And here's the dilemma. And maybe you've confronted this dilemma yourself. Those of you who are students or parents, you've kind of confronted this or seen your students struggle with this. And here's the dilemma. How do I contribute? How do I contribute? Because on the one hand, once I realize I need to learn things to be able to contribute, that journey becomes lifelong. There's too much to read. Mastering the tradition takes more than a lifetime. Okay, so once I realize how much I don't know, I have to go learn for the rest of my life. And it's overwhelming. And there's too much good stuff. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, if I decide, you know what, I'm going to get started, I'm going to start contributing now. I may not have anything to say, but I'm going to start a YouTube channel and just put myself out there. I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to start a business. I'm going to provide services. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to publish, self-publish. I'm going to put myself out there and see what sticks. There is some wisdom to that because you don't want to be, giving excuses. I'll start tomorrow. I'll start tomorrow. I'll start tomorrow. But you could spend your whole life experimenting, trial and error, trying on new ideas, serial entrepreneur, creating new companies, selling companies. That is also a way to basically, that would take your whole life to kind of narrow in on your particular art or your particular brand or your particular identity. What can I contribute that no one else is doing, or that I can do well, or I can do better than some people? So these are like two different poles, right? Investing in myself and just getting started with whatever I have. Maybe I do have something to say. Maybe I don't even know it. You read autobiographies of people who became more successful than they even knew. Like Harry Potter, she didn't know how successful the book was going to be. She just was writing it. Maybe I should just write what's on my mind. Okay, maybe that's how I contribute. So this is the dilemma, and the answer, the solution, I think, is that we have to do the dialectic in a certain way. We have to be in relationships with people who are wiser than us. And that's actually going to do two things. It's going to sort of solve the dilemma. Because number one, they're going to help us, they're going to fast forward the ingestion of the tradition. They're gonna speed up this process of becoming wise in our very being, not just sort of knowing things, but actually becoming a discerning person who's sensitive to the voice of God, who's sensitive to your conscience, who's sensitive to other people, and that you can actually move through this world with wisdom. That's going to come from having wise mentors. I know maybe some people can do it on their own, or maybe they pray and God gives them wisdom directly. God bless you. But for normatively, what's normal is we need wisdom from people who are wiser than us, which means we have to be in relationship with them. We have to be in conversation with them. We have to be honest with them. And we have to actually listen to them and trust them in some sense more than we trust ourselves. We have to have mentors that, you know what, I don't understand why you want me to do that, but I think you know better than me, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to step out. That's how we, in a sense, accelerate our own development. So the dialectic is this mentorship relationship. And what's cool about it is we can talk about anything. So in just like last night's session, for example, it's me and 5 students. We talked about some of the most abstract, kind of wild stuff, the supernatural divine light that existed before creation. And we talked about some of the most practical, what are we going to do tomorrow? We were talking about Minecraft. We were talking about getting a business started. We were talking about real estate. I mean, the tangents were all part of it. Nicole can tell you, and it's fun. It was so much fun. So everything is in the dialectic contains all of that. It's not just a lecture. And once I'm done talking, then, you wrote it down. Maybe you learned some things. Maybe there'll be a test later. It's this ongoing interactive relationship that I now have with these students that will, God willing, continue for years. And who knows after that, because, we're collaborating, we're forming ideas for what they're going to do for their future. We might be working together for years at this point, right? We're forming those relationships. So the dialectic is one of the ways that we can ingest the tradition and get that wisdom nutrition. I think of like some of the great books as nutrition, right? You have to ingest it. You have to eat it. You have to let it kind of like metabolize through your system. But the dialectic is also, you could say, a playground or a canvas where we start to contribute. We start to practice putting things out there And I love the word collaboration, right? Synergy became a buzzword a couple decades ago, I guess now. But we become collaborators even with Plato, even with Homer. Our thoughts, we become collaborators with the tradition. Our thoughts, as we learn the tradition, we begin to step into that conversation and become a contributor in the tradition. And you start to realize, wait a minute, I do have something to contribute. And that happens in the dialectic, in class, outside of class, talking to fellow students, writing, and you start to have something to say because you've been ingesting that wisdom. So we discuss everything. We did the Gospel of John, but we allow some of these little tangents to go what's on the students' minds. And that is formative. That makes you into a certain kind of a learner, a certain kind of a person. You acquire some confidence. You learn from your peers who you are and what you have to contribute. And so that's a bit about the good professor and like how we deal with this conundrum. How am I supposed to contribute without just being, nobody wants to be vain and say, oh, I know something, I have something to offer, when really it's like, you don't. You're boring us. Okay. Nobody wants to be that. But at the same time, you do have to step out there. You have to learn by doing. And our students are already beginning that process, and they're only going to get better and better and better over the course of 4 years. So that's a bit about kind of how we approach teaching, and why we do it that way, and what the hopeful effect is, and what the effect already has been after only a semester. And I'm going to turn it over to one of our students, Nicole Parker, to talk about being a student. She's incredibly curious, incredibly excited, has ideas, has already started businesses, is interested in everything, and it's just been a great student so far. So take it away, Nicole.
Sweet. Thank you for that. Thank you for having me and listening. If you feel comfortable, please, I encourage you to turn your cameras on so I can take a look at you. And Dr. Smith or Christy, give me like a sign to wrap it up because I love yapping. Talk about the school forever. I'm one of the 5 inaugural students. And I was so nervous to meet everyone. I remember orientation week because there's so little of us. I was nervous, and thank God we like each other and we hang out all the time because we see each other minimum 5 times a week. We have classes Monday to Friday, and with this current schedule for the spring semester, there's only 1 class a day, and none of our classes are longer than 3 hours. So we have 3 days of our great text seminar where we sit around the table discussing the book that we're reading that day. We have a class of entrepreneurship and then a class of formation. And I loved what Matthew was saying about, what makes a good teacher. And I think it's really unique that not only do we have so many teachers, we have more teachers than students, but a lot of the time we'll get different professors for the same book. So you get a bunch of different perspectives on a single text, which is super unique and helpful. And then sprinkled throughout the week, we have outside activities. For example, one time, I guess they're technically still school activities. Like one time we had our great text class at the Getty. We all hopped in one of our classmates' mom's van and just like road tripped out to the Getty. We looked at the William Blake exhibit, and then, we discussed Plato's Symposium in the courtyard while the sun was setting. It was like, what? And, we do little things that are just fun too. So, one time, me, Christy, and the students, we went kayaking before our evening class, and then we all got lunch, me and the students afterwards, and like studied Thucydides. So it's really nice. But classes are typically at our campus, which I'm in right now. It's a co-working space called Fieldwork. So it's not your typical like college campus. There are people here renting businesses, renting out rooms, and then, the common area, which is right here. So you're kind of rubbing shoulders with people who are doing the entrepreneurial thing. And I see a question. I'm just going to answer this now, if that's okay. I know there's a Q&A, but feel free to interrupt me and I can like address your burning questions so you don't forget them. Housing situation. I mean, a lot of the students live locally, but you know, some of our students, 2 out of the 5 do. They live with the professors. Like my classmate Lydia lives with Dr. Ballard and his family doing a Hildegard homestay. That was the word I was looking for. And so does Kyle. He does a Hildegard homestay. So if you're not in the Southern California area, you have options to live reasonably, like for reasonable prices. And also, oh yeah, there's work opportunities with Hildegard. That's something I really love. Because one of the things that Matt Smith, the president, said early on when we were looking at our reading list and all the books we had to read in such a short amount of time, he said, yeah, I know it's a lot, but we have high expectation, high support, which is not only true with the academic side of things, but just life in general. If you need support, if you need to find a job, you know, if you need to find housing, you will be supported. If you're struggling with your faith, you will be supported. Like there's no judgment zone. And I, you know, I was looking for a job, part-time work, and I'm now working at field work, the campus at the event space hosting, and then also doing social media stuff for Hildegard. And that's another great way to learn about the school and the student experience. If you check out the Hildegard Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, we post a lot about, you know, what it's like to go to Hildegard and all the stuff that we do. So yeah, it is every week is a full week. You know, you have class every day and it's a lot of reading, but it is high support. And if you, I feel really connected to Keith Bueller because we love doing just everything that we find interesting and doing a billion different thousand things at once. So if you also like doing that and you have a lot of outside projects that you want to fulfill and, you know, ideas that you want to execute, like Hildegard will help you with that. They'll help you explore those ideas and give advice on how to, you know, manage your projects and manage your time. And yeah, it's possible to get anything that you want done. Yeah, I mean, I think the secret ingredient in terms of student life for me is the people. Like, I have 4 genuine friends that I will most likely have for life, and they happen to be my classmates now. Like, not only that, but the professors, I feel, you know, such a genuine friendship out of them as well. You know, a lot of the magic moments, of course, they happen in class. Like I literally bought a journal for the new year after winter break to just keep track of all the quotes, you know, from the books we read, but from the things that professors and students say during our conversations or during our classes at the Great Text Program. So it's really nice. I think the people make everyone's so comfortable, especially during the second semester. Like the people really kind of make the experience. One of our civic partners, Kevin Ryan of Ryan Guitars, he invited me to go to the NAMM show because I'm a, you know, musician with no credentials, and then we're just gonna, you know, hang out in the afternoon and go to the NAMM show together. And you know, I can go to Professor Buchanan with my guitar problems, be like, is the action too high on my guitar? And be like, yeah, let me take a look. So it's like it's a community. It's really great. Someone asked a question. No, the question is, were you personally exposed to classical education before Hildegard? Absolutely not. Like I went to public school my whole life. And I'm 21 right now. I graduated high school class of 2020 and then it was like online community college because it was quarantine COVID. And I was so just bummed out. I just, you know, stopped going after the first semester and like moved out and did work and started little things here and there. I had no classical education, and I am so glad I found Hildegard because I'm in love with the classical education model. And that's another thing I love about Hildegard. I would say we're a pretty well-rounded group. We're a well-rounded cohort. And you don't have to be, have gone to a private school your whole life and be the perfect Samaritan. Like, people will accept you for who you are. Someone asked, without a campus, do new students find transitioning into college life more difficult? I can speak for myself. I found it kind of easier because that was what I was used to. Like, I'm getting the college experience even though it's not at a campus, if that makes sense. No, I didn't find it the transition difficult because it was like very natural and real life integrated, and everyone, like, even though a lot of the people in our campus, they're not students, they're business owners and they're working. We're all friendly. Like, I think I know everyone. We're all on a first name basis at Fieldwork, so everyone's friends with everyone. We have a coffee shop that's attached to the building. All the people that work there, you get that movie experience where you walk in, they're like the usual, and then they'll like hand deliver it to the classroom to you. That's super nice. Everyone's so friendly. Yeah, so I think, I don't know how we are on timing, but that's kind of what I have to say about the school. If you want to ask any questions about student life to me personally, my email will be, I think, somewhere in the chat or something like that. And I don't know.
You can put it in the chat, Nicole, if you want. You can put it yourself. Could you answer that last question, the one that you just answered for yourself? Without a campus, do new students find transitioning into college life more difficult? Can you reflect on, because we also have students that are straight out of high school that are 18 years old. Can you kind of reflect on how other people I mean, of course, there's going to be a transition, I think, for any college student. Can you answer that question in as far as you see your peers, that your classmates experiencing it?
Yes, I think, yeah, that's a good point. Two of our students, they're 18 and just graduated high school, so this is their first college experience. And then one of them, Kyle, he moved down to Southern California for this and is doing Hildegard Homestay. And from what they tell me, it was a shock, especially for Kyle to move for college. But I think he's expressed his gratitude, for the rest of the students, and that, if he needs a ride, we'll give him a ride, or if he wants to study, we'll all go to a coffee shop and study together. So I think it was a transition for them, in the sense that it's very different than high school. Like, not only is it college, but it's a very sort of novelty, unique college. But I don't know, like, I don't hear any grumblings from them. Like, we stayed after class for like 2 hours. We were there till like 11 p.m. trying to recreate Plato's Republic in Minecraft, like, as dorky and nerdy as that sounds. So I don't know, maybe the transition was a little bit more difficult for them. And yeah, I would say the people that traveled to Southern California, like Lydia, she had a community college experience. So this was her first time, like, moving out of state for college. And yeah, I would say it was a little difficult finding work and, getting all of her affairs in order down in a new place. But I think it's right now smooth sailing. Like, I think everyone's in a really good place, and the growing pains of, starting a new college are kind of ended, and everyone's like feels at home, I would say. So yeah, that was a hard question. I wasn't sure.
No, thank you, Nicole. Thank you for joining us. You can stick around if you want. I know you're actually skipping class. If you need to dip out and go to class, that's fine too, or you can hang out and see if people have more questions. But I'm going to turn it over to Christy now to kind of close us out before we open it up for more questions if you have them.
Wonderful. And thank you again, Nicole, for joining us today and for sharing the student experience and for kind of giving everyone a peek behind the curtain of what it's like to be a first-year Hildegard student. So yes, I'm going to just dive into some Hildegard fun facts here that will help you give a little bit more of an idea of what we're offering, and if you are interested in applying, what you should be preparing for. Before I do that, I just wanted to give a little more context about our location. Many people have never heard of Costa Mesa, California, but they've heard of Newport Beach and Huntington Beach and some of these surrounding areas. And we are right in the middle of those areas, about 4 miles from the beach. For us, that means about a 10-minute drive. And something that we really enjoy about our campus and our area is we are blessed with this beautiful Southern California weather. The students recently had class out in our courtyard. They took the whiteboard out of the classroom and took it out into the courtyard and enjoyed the beautiful fresh beach air and sunshine, and that's something that we really value here. There was a question in the chat about sports, and while as a new college we do not have organized sports yet, we do have access to pretty much every outdoor activity imaginable here year-round. And I know our students are cooking up some ideas about teams and extracurriculars and such. So Nicole, if you are able to stick around at the end, I'd love to hear your feedback about some of the culture building exercises you and the other students are doing now and preparing for future classes. And our campus, as Nicole mentioned, is we're located within a co-working space, and we not only have businesses in that co-working space, we also have 2 churches that meet regularly there, one of which is one of our church partners. And we have nonprofits and very diverse group of entrepreneurs and solopreneurs that, as Nicole mentioned, are rubbing shoulders with them constantly. And it's just a wonderful, very enlivened atmosphere here that we really enjoy. So then moving into money, of course, how much does Hildegard cost? The cost is always such an important piece of the college choice puzzle. And affordability is extremely important to us. And that can be challenging in not only at the college level, but also in the environment of Southern California. And here are some of the things that we are doing to keep it affordable for students and families. First of all, we have $16,000 per year tuition. This includes tuition and fees, the co-working membership with fieldwork, and 2 one-week study abroad experiences, and that is all inclusive. You're never going to find extra fees tacked on, no semester fees, course fees, etc. That is an all-inclusive cost. We also offer need-based scholarships. So if a student would like to apply to one of those scholarships, a student must be accepted first, and then we have a 1-page form they can fill out, and we shop that to our generous donors, and we can work out different scholarship options for those students. We also, as Nicole mentioned, offer work opportunities with our civic partners and also with Hildegard. So Nicole is our social media and digital marketing intern. One of our other students is serving as an administrative assistant for us. And then other students are working for our co-working space, fieldwork, and also pursuing other internship opportunities. And all of this is designed to keep costs down. The homestay, which Nicole mentioned, is another piece of that puzzle. We encourage students to live in our community and to practice adulthood. And we want our students to have a very deeply integrative experience of adulthood. And we believe that part of that is living in the community. So if students want to live independently or with a group of friends, they certainly can. And we have many living options that are within walking distance of our campus. But then we also have the Hildegard homestay option. And these options are with individuals who are connected with our partner churches, who are involved in our community, whom we trust, who are opening rooms or back houses or apartments to our students for an affordable price. Very competitive, especially given the typical costs of living in coastal Southern California. So there are several of those options open right now for students who may be interested in applying for the fall. We have several open homestay options that are close to campus. And those opportunities are constantly popping up, and we're working on always expanding that network of trusted homestay partners. Another piece of the affordability puzzle for us is in the way we approach tuition financing. So we have what we call a subscription model to tuition financing, where typically students, families are charged on a monthly basis, but we also have flexible financing opportunities. So we will work with students and their families to figure out options that work for all parties. And then we also, through one of our civic partners, have private loan options. America's Christian Credit Union is one of our civic partners, and we really enjoy working with them. Okay, moving on, last but not least, before our Q&A, I'm just going to really briefly go over our application and admissions requirements. If you are interested in applying to Hildegard, our admissions process is pretty simple. We want you to complete our online application, and I will include that link here in a moment. Our application really emphasizes opportunities for you to answer questions and represent yourself how you see fit. So the majority of the application involves essay questions. And you can write an essay, you can put together a presentation, you can respond with videos or mixed media. And we've had students be all over the map there, and it's a really exciting opportunity for you to present yourself the way you would like us to know you. There are no right answers, and our goal is to get to know who you are authentically in this moment through that process. So you'll complete our application, and then we do need at least your unofficial high school transcripts. And so you can email those to us or attach those to the application. And then we're looking for one personal reference and one academic or professional reference. So the personal reference would come from someone who's known you, ideally 3 to 5 years or more, who can personally vouch for your character and ability to grow. And then the academic or professional reference, that might be a professor you've worked with, a school administrator who knows you really well, or even an employer who can vouch for you. And again, ideally someone who's known you for a while. We are test optional, so we do not require any SAT, ACT, or alternative testing. However, we do strongly recommend the classic learning test, and I will include that link at the end here as well. We have worked with the classic learning test folks, and we believe that test is probably, of all of the standardized tests available, the greatest indicator of future success, especially in a college model like our own. And then once you complete the application, submit the references and at least your unofficial transcripts. If you are selected to continue the process, you'll be invited to a 20 to 30 minute online admissions interview with, it's usually President Smith, myself, and perhaps a faculty member. and we'll just have a conversation. And then we provide admissions decisions on a rolling basis. So you're not going to see an official application deadline in this session today or on our website. We provide admissions decisions on a rolling basis, and students generally receive the admissions decision within 5 business days of completing the process. So we understand that the college search process is fraught with many perils, and we try to make it as straightforward and easy and quick for you as possible. All right, so with that, I see some questions have come in. Wonderful. So we are officially opening it up now to Q&A. So I will start with the first questions. And we will just open it up. Dr. Bueller, Nicole, President Smith, all of us will just share answers to these questions, and please keep them coming. We have about another 15 minutes, and we'd love to help with anything that you're interested in. Okay, so the first question is from Nico. Thank you, Nico. Is this a Catholic college? We are not a Catholic college. We are a non-denominational. And Dr. Smith, would you like to comment more on that?
Happy to. And Dr. Bueller also, I think, replied below with the description, mere Christian college. So we are mere Christian college. We are Orthodox in the sense that we ascribe to a traditional understanding of the faith. Our faculty affirm the doctrines of the faith as described in traditional documents like the Nicene Creed. But we are not a Catholic college. We have faculty that are Protestant, Evangelical, Anglican, Eastern Orthodox, Roman Catholic. That diversity is also represented on our board. So no, this is a college for all Christians.
That's awesome. So you guys are Orthodox?
We are not Orthodox. We are Orthodox, lowercase o.
Okay.
We're not Eastern Orthodox, no.
Okay.
But we do have Dr. Bueller is Eastern Orthodox, for instance, is the headmaster of an Orthodox classical school. So we have Orthodox faculty, or Orthodox folks on our advisory board, but we're not an Eastern Orthodox college, no.
Nice. So you guys like neutral throughout like all Christian faiths?
That's correct. All traditional Christian faiths. So and you know, for our students, we're not a covenant school, and we don't ask students on purpose to sign a statement that affirms that they believe in dogma A, dogma B, dogma C, and so forth. We ask them to describe their experience with the faith. We ask them to tell us what Jesus means to them. And we are very clear with them about what we believe as a school and what we teach, and ask them why they want to come to a school that is a Christian learning community. So we're uncompromising in that way, but we're also aware that 18-year-olds coming to college, they're learning how to be themselves as independent adults for the first time. There's an enormous amount of trust that parents, and as a parent myself, I know this, place in colleges, especially Christian colleges, in shepherding that faith. And we, the reason why we have church partners across traditions, is that they're from different traditions, is that we're not in the business of trying to convert a student to one particular Christian tradition over another.
Okay.
What we most want is for them to go back to the Christian communities they come from with the tools and the formation that they've gotten at Hildegard College, and to improve them and to serve them.
Awesome. Just another question. So I'm thinking of going to a community college. So is it okay if I can attend my last 2 years of college at Hildegard College online?
Attend Hildegard College online? Is that what you're
Yes,
asking?
for the last 2 years, my junior and senior years of college.
So we don't offer any online programs. We treat we believe that the kind of physical proximity, as Dr. Bueller described, of being in a room with people and making friends interpersonally. That analog experience is essential. We're not a Luddite school, and meaning our students are engaging with technology all the time, but we don't offer online programs. We do allow some transfer of units, but not a full 2 years, because our curriculum is totally unique, as any great books oriented college curriculum would be. If you have trying to transfer in intro to philosophy and intro to literature and Western civilization, college algebra, these things, it's not going to be remotely close to how you study those sorts of subjects at Hildegard College. And it's important to us that students are following this journey from year one through. We do have some electives that students petition for in later years, and we'll, based on what they petition, teach different courses. And so AP units and previous college credits can transfer in for those.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay.
Okay, and thank you to Bryn and to Sherry for asking about sports and extracurriculars like speech and debate. Nicole, would you like to share a little bit more about our culture of students co-creating the college experience with us?
Yeah, we actually, for the first time, seriously, wrote on the whiteboard, kind of mapping out different extracurricular activities we want to do. A sort of thread that's woven throughout all the students is a love of music, like both creating, performing, listening, stuff like that. So we were kind of thinking of, just analyzing all of our interests and strengths as a cohort and kind of making classes or extracurricular activities based off that. I know there's been talk, President Smith does jiu-jitsu. He's been trying to rope us into some of his classes, which we're actually pretty interested in. And I know Lydia, she's a cook, one of our classmates, so we thought it would be nice to have a cooking class, Right now we're reading a book for entrepreneurship called Ikigai, and it's like the Japanese secret to happiness or something like that. So we thought it would be nice to have like a Ikigai cooking night where we, cook the Okinawa, Japan, diet, and only eat till we're 80% full and then take a walk after, stuff like that. We like to do stuff. We're reading all these great books together. We reference and have inside jokes about characters in the books all the time. So we like to do stuff that kind of relates to what we're learning, but make it, I don't know, extra fun, I guess. So yeah, lots of stuff in the works.
Thank you, Nicole. And Sherry, I just wanted to note that speech and debate has come up quite a few times, and that is something that we are interested in building along with our students in the future. Leah, so I partially answered your question about housing, but then with the partner churches, I actually included the link there in the chat for our list of both our church partners as well as our current civic partners, and both of those lists are ever growing. All right, let's see. Thank you, Dr. Bueller, for helping answer a couple of these questions. Oh, Eowyn, thank you for the question about, does the $16,000 include books? It does not include books. However, we very carefully choose editions of classic texts and such. We do not use textbooks, so you're never going to encounter that $200 or $300 biology textbook that you would in a typical college setting. But we also very carefully choose editions that are affordable and that keep costs low per semester. I don't know if Dr. Bueller or Dr. Smith would like to add anything to that.
I'll say that that's right, Christy, and we're committed to affordability, not because we want college to be inexpensive, but because we don't want our students to go into debt. So currently, none of our students are going into any debt for Hildegard College, and that's out of conviction, right? You teach students and cultivate this sense of what the good life, what the virtuous life is, and then they graduate with so much debt that it really sort of enslaves them or cripples their ability to pursue that good life in actual material ways. And I think that's unconscionable. So we're our institutional model is not like other colleges' institutional model. We practice the entrepreneurship that we teach in such a way. And so, for instance, to answer Gabriella's question about fiscal stability, not the first family I've spoken with who have been part of a college that closed in the past. And these are top-heavy institutions that have done really good work, but could not survive, especially in a time where schools are closing and enrollment is dropping, and there are just fewer college-age students alive in the United States. So our commitment to affordability is met with a kind of lean model where, I mean, the reason why we're not launching with big athletic programs is because those are really expensive and we don't want to saddle students with those costs. I will also say that one of our commitments is to teach through. So we are fiscally stable. If you're interested in talking about that, I would be happy to be transparent about that if you want to reach out to me. But in any case, if something were to happen and something, if any kind of startup like this is new and does run risks, we are committed to teaching out any student that enrolls from year 1 all the way through year 4. So that's not a risk that we want anyone who's interested in Hildegard to be concerned about.
Thank you, President Smith. And yes, I just want to reiterate for follow-up questions, you are more than welcome to reach out to us. I'm going to type our general email here. It's admissions@hildegard.college. But you can also reach out to each of us individually. So you can reach out to Dr. Smith at president@hildegard.college. You can reach out to Nicole. I believe she included her email in there. And then to me as well, I will type my email address in here. We love to interact with students and parents, and we will honestly answer your questions. Kyle and Alyssa, is there a plan in place for future COVID-like situations or vaccine requirements? I'll just quickly say we do not require vaccines. And Dr. Smith, did you want to add anything to that?
We have been, even though our class started our undergraduate class this last spring, we have other community learning programs that we run. Students are involved with that. We call them Great Work Seminars. They meet monthly. Teachers, educators, parents, and students come together to discuss great books. We were running those during part of the epidemic. And we have this is just to say we kept running them. We have no vaccine requirements. It's hard to predict the severity of any kind of future epidemic, of course. So it would be foolish of me to say that we would never make some sort of change based on what's happening nationally in national health. But no, we don't have and don't intend to have any vaccination requirement for students or faculty or staff.
Thank you again. These have been wonderful questions. Are there any other questions before we end today?
There's another question here, Christy from Gabriella. Looking ahead, do you have student enrollment projections for the next 5 years? Also, what is your goal for the next steps after your students graduate? Will you offer specific routes to either professional world or higher education? Answer the first question. We are purposely selective. We're choosy about the students that we accept and care most about the right fit. Our intention is to max out our current campus at 120 students because classes are 15 students or fewer always. So that comes to 30 students per year in 2 cohorts of 15 each. What is your goal for the next steps after graduation? We obsess over the transition from college to what's after college. We think about social capital and making use of our civic partner network as students. I mean, Nicole can attest to this, already have connected with so many outside organizations. These are potential employers, potential references, network partners. The social capital of our students is something we care deeply about through the Polymath project, the applied capstone they do, through the industry-based work. Not just their networks, but their resumes are already substantial and will be significant by the time they graduate. we're not a specialist college, right? So one way to describe us is that we're a college for generalists who want to be able to understand all aspects of organizational leadership, operations, finance, creative side as well. Neither were we founded by we weren't founded just by academics. We're founded by a group of academics and entrepreneurial leaders who came together, saw a problem, and wanted to solve it. And so the way that we designed our degree began with, what is this outcome? What is the ideal, not Hildegard student, but Christian college graduate today? And then created a program to serve that. So the competencies, the things that we want our graduates to be able to do, that they're learning to do, are the kinds of things that will lead them almost into any career they want to. If you know 100%, if you're 18 and you're listening to this and you know, I want to go into this very specific field that requires this very specific college credential, then Hildegard's probably not for you. But for, dare I say, the majority of students who are hungry and humble, intelligent and ambitious, I think that Hildegard is designed around a student like you.
Then Gabriella, thank you for your additional question. When is the best time to visit? Well, when our campus is open, which is fall and spring, basically any time other than the Christmas or Easter breaks, we welcome you to come visit. And we've had several groups of students and their families come, and we'll show you around campus. You can sit in on a class and engage with our students and faculty. And we can sit there with you and discuss any questions you have. We love it when students and families come to campus. So all that you need to do is just reach out to us, let us know when it works for you, and we will coordinate. Any other questions before we conclude today? You are most welcome. Well, again, we encourage you to reach out to us personally and also to sign up that request info link. I'll include it one more time here. Please sign up for our list. We are going to have another online college info night and opportunity to discuss the meaning of college and what students are looking for in college. And we won't just talk about Hildegard. We're going to talk about navigating higher education today and how thoughtful families and students, especially who are steeped in the classical tradition, can make wise and thoughtful college choices. So make sure that you're on our list, and we will send you the link and details for that by email. Here is the link one more time. Thank you again so much to all of you for being here, and again to Dr. Bianco and the CiRCE Institute for hosting us today.
You are welcome. Thank you everyone for attending today. Thank you, team from Hildegard.
Thank you all.
It was great. I appreciate it. I told you guys that they would have tough questions, good questions. They're very interested and engaged group that's here. So yeah, thank you very much for sharing about Hildegard, and thank you guys for asking all your good questions. Hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
You guys.
Take care.
Thanks. Appreciate it.